Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'm pleased to rise to support the motion from my good friend sitting here at the table, the member from Goldstine. Goldstein? Goldstine.
Goldstine.
Goldstine. I'm sure it's interchangeable at many times, but
No,
it's not.
I must have to start by picking up on a few points from the member for Fenner, talking about if you repeat a lie often enough it becomes the truth. Deputy Speaker, talk about pot-kettle-black. Here we have a member of the opposition that ran the Mediscare line, the greatest deception in an election in Australia's history. In fact, such a lie that was repeated over and over and over and over again, Deputy Speaker, that it will go down in folklore. And in fact, thankfully, this Parliament has passed legislation, which was even agreed to by the opposition, that would make such a deceptive campaign, again, if they engage in such deceptive conduct, impersonating a federal government agency, like they did with that Mediscare campaign, that will be an illegal act. So we wait with bated breath on this side of the House, Deputy Speaker, to see what campaign that our opponents will come up with at the next election. What story that they will tell, that they will repeat over and over and over again. That untruth, Deputy Speaker, to try and again con the Australian public. But I think this time the Australian public will be awake. Now, when it gets onto the issue of corporate tax, I think one of the most stunning revelations that came this week, Deputy Speaker, was when we had one of the members of the opposition ask a question in question time when they were talking about the reductions in the corporate tax rate. And they asked the question, where will the money come from? This is the question we often ask on this side of the House when Labor has these big spending plans. But this was in a relation to reduction in the corporate tax rate. It shows the fundamental misunderstanding or the fundamental difference between the ideologies on this side of the House and that side of the House. On this side of the chamber, Deputy Speaker, we understand that the size of the economic pie of our nation, the wealth that we have is not fixed. The wealth that we have can be shrink or it can grow, Deputy Speaker, depending on the incentives that we put in the system. It depends on the hard work of those Australians that vote for us, Deputy Speaker. It depends on their risk-taking, their entrepreneurial efforts, and the hard work about how big that economic pie grows. And this is where we see the opposition thinking that the size of that economic pie is fixed, and it's just a matter of cutting it up. Therefore, they don't understand, Deputy Speaker, that the very reason that we are reducing the corporate rate of tax in this nation is to grow the size of the economic pie. And this is not just a theory. This has happened every single time in our nation's history when we have reduced that corporate rate of tax. When we reduced that corporate rate of tax, as Peter Costello did, when he was the former Treasurer, when he reduced that corporate rate of tax down from 36% to 30%, according to the opposition's ideology, or what they say now, that would have cost the Treasury money. It would have cost the Treasury money. But exactly the opposite happened. The reduction in the rate of tax rates actually resulted in the Treasury getting more revenue in. And not only in gross terms, but as a percentage of GDP. So we grew the pie, and we even made the slice of that pie of corporate tax bigger at a smaller rate. And it wasn't only just under Peter Costello. Exactly the same thing happened when Paul Keating was the Treasurer. Again, Paul Keating understood. He reduced the corporate rate of tax in this nation. And surprise, surprise, what happened? The actual number of dollars flowing to the Treasury increased. The economy grew. Job creation grew, Deputy Speaker. And this is what we understand on this side of the House. And it just amazes me that we have members of the opposition wanting to simply run a class warfare rhetoric to try and argue against corporate tax cuts. If we look at almost every OECD nation this century, almost every OECD nation has understood this and has lowered the corporate rate of tax, with a few exceptions, including Australia. So we now face a future going on, Deputy Speaker, even though we've had a magnificent performance from this coalition government, with more than 1 million new jobs created. We face a future going forward that we must get that rate of corporate tax down
There
to be
being no
internationally
further
competitive.
speakers, the debate's adjourned.